Hello and welcome. Today we've got Rod Steele, and today we're going to be discussing the financial global currency reset with what's going on. The Federal Reserve losing complete control of the dollar. We've got the BRICS who are implementing the gold standard. And it's very exciting to see once the sanctions have been lifted from these currencies that have been manipulated, that have been suppressed over time, what the value of those currencies would be. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my daily news reels. Rod, thank you so much for joining me. How are you? And what have you been up to? It's been a very long time.
It's been an absolute too long for sure. That's absolutely for sure. I've just been ready. In December, to be honest, I started doing these private one-on-one consultations for people that held currency to prepare them for their redemption appointment at the banks. And I thought, well, we'll be done by January 1st. And here we are toward the end of June, for heaven's sake, and we're still going after it. So it's kept me going night and day. It's been very beneficial to the people that, so I'm told, to the people who have received it. And but I'm hoping we can turn a corner and move on to the next chapter of our lives, Nick, pretty soon here.
Yeah. Now, I spoke to a friend of mine who works as a broker in Goldman Sachs, and he's awake, but he's not really aware of the whole Iraqi dinar currency revaluation, the Vietnamese dong, etc. He's not aware. And I asked him, I said, the Iraqi dinar is very undervalued. Why is that? And he says to me, because the Federal Reserve have applied sanctions. The US have put sanctions on their currencies. And then I said, but if those sanctions were lifted, do you think that it would be reasonable to assume that the Iraqi dinar would gain a lot of value again? And he goes, yes, it would go up. And then I said to him, if I hold currency Iraqi dinars, will I be able to use those notes and exchange them for the new revaluation? And he goes, of course, absolutely. So from looking at it from a different lens, as a broker in Goldman Sachs, this is what he told me. What do you think about that?
Well, he's absolutely right. I mean, you talked just in your introduction a little bit about the fact that we are losing our stranglehold on the world by having lost our petrodollar. Saudi Arabia has now signed that away, and you've got BRICS coming in and taking our place. That means we have nowhere else to put our debt. And if we can't funnel our debt off to the rest of the world, we're basically going to go broke, because it's only by that constant rehash every month of selling off bonds, and nobody wants our bonds anymore. It's fixing to be fine for you and me, but for the rest of the world, it's going to be very difficult. And to go back to your original question, before we go in and take over a country like we did Iraq, essentially, we crash their economy. We do that by crashing their dollar that they use. And that's exactly what we did when we invaded after the so-called 9/11 that we blamed them for. That's a whole show or two or series, so don't get me started on that. But anyway, we went in there deliberately with the purpose to get the oil. There were other things, if you want to get a beam on portals and things like that, that we were trying to get control of as well. Anyway, that's what we do consistently, country after country after country, and that's exactly what happened in Iraq. And we're finally about ready to let that go. And it's my understanding that we're the ones that have been blocking it from happening already. So it's like, sorry, guys, that I don't create what happens in America. I just live here.
Yeah. So Russia is now, taking, is allowing to, they're doing a trade now with Vietnam, and they're using the dong to do trades and stuff like that. And what if it goes backed by the ruble? I think I have it here, and I want to look for it. Let me just have a look for it here because somebody sent this to me, and it's very, very interesting. Let's have a look. It says, "Alert, alert, alert! The trade agreement between Russia and Vietnam means Russia takes Vietnamese dong in trade. So now Russia holds dong in their currency reserves. Russia converts the dong into rubles, then converts the ruble into the unit. Russia makes trade investments in Vietnam using the unit backed by gold. The unit being backed by gold now replaces the US dollar as foreign central bank currency reserves in Vietnam. This is called the in- internationalization of the unit, backed by 40% physical gold, 30% Russian bonds, 30% Chinese bonds, where both Russia and China currencies are backed by gold." What does this mean to you?
That means they don't need the U.S. involvement anymore, and they're the whole world, not just Russia and Vietnam, as far as developed countries, are they're done with the U.S. and it's going to have a decimating effect on our economy here. Uh, Unfortunately, because of the amount of trade that we do worldwide, when you affect our economy here, it's going to affect other economies by the fallout. But yes, them and all of the BRICS countries, and we're going to talk about that, um, have aligned themselves to no longer need the interference and control of the U.S. when it comes to their economic processing system, which is what we've done for decades, and that's how we've managed to be so prosperous. It's all smoke and mirrors, because the money's not really there. We have a debt based economy, and so if as long as we can funnel off our debt to the rest of the world, we can keep buying stuff on credit and look really good on the surface. Meanwhile, it's like the ducks on the pond. They're going smooth across the water, but they're pedaling as fast as they can underneath. And that's where we are as a country. We can no longer afford to pedal any faster. We've pedaled as fast as we can. We've pedaled ourselves right into oblivion. And that's why this thing is about to crash and turn around and reset.
Interesting. Now, it costs peanuts in dollars to buy millions of Vietnamese dong and Iraqi dinar. And when this revalues, because Trump did say that, he's very worried about the devaluation of currencies and we should all be in a level playing field, he says, to compete fairly. But I'm hearing it's going to be much more than a dollar when they revalue. And it will be much more than level playing field. But let's just assume, to be conservative, that it is level playing field and we are one for one. This means that Americans holding Iraqi dinar, Vietnamese dong at, millions of them, which again costs peanuts in dollars to buy right now, when it revalues, there would be millionaires. Is that the case?
Millionaires and billionaires. It's going to be the largest financial transition in history, and I know that you have some spiritual beliefs, and that's all prophetically pronounced in the Bible, where they're taking away the wealth from the wicked and giving it to the righteous. I believe we're in that transition period right now, and I believe this is the greatest wealth transfer ever in the history of the world. We've had resets before, but we've never. They were always based upon individual countries. This is a global reset. 209 countries and territories, over 180 countries, and the balance in territories that are all doing this at the same time, that all signed up on this gold-backed currency setup under Trump. And we're about to see that take place.
So what is your estimation with how much the dong and the dinars will revalue to the dollar? What's your estimation, predictions?
Well, you've got the Forex rates that are going to be announced at your basic bank or redemption meeting with the people. And I can jump into all that if you want to let me take off and run with it.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. Right now, I'm waiting for an update from the IMF. The banks are training here in the United States. Now, this is how close we are, folks. They're now training their people on where to put our money for those of us in the U.S. and keeping it in their bank after they get it. They're accepting all currencies now. They may not all revalue now, but they're saying go ahead and bring whatever you've got, and we'll see what we can work with and what we may need to postpone till the next RV, because we're doing this basically in baskets. There's about 27 countries in the first one. About 6 will be in the next one. About 6 months later, there'll be a third one and perhaps even a fourth. So to mention your statement, I will give basics as far as Forex is concerned on those. I don't want to go beyond that because that gets into consultation that people are putting up good money for. And so I want to make sure that they have that for themselves. The Paris Treaty did make the exchange non-taxable here in the U.S. for sure. I get that from a lot of people. I know our IRS is trying to set up a code to override that, but I don't think it's going to go through. We've got Sudani has signed off on everything in Iraq. Of course, they're the linchpin for the entire revaluation, so that's where we follow our news the closest. Perhaps they're waiting on Israel to make their final move. Hezbollah had recently started striking the Israeli port of Haifa for the first time, and Hezbollah hit northern Israel recently with 100 supersonic missiles. Iran's doing their part to inflame Israel to make their move to hit those nuclear power plants. In the past few days, Iraqi Prime Minister Sudani went on Iraqi TV in English, actually, and said that he will raise the value of the Iraqi dinar. Maliki, of course, who's an Obama holdover from 2010, said that he wants to hold early elections before the end of the year and have Sudani removed. He's panicking because Sudani's removed the deep state money from their laundering of the U.S. dollar there. Now, as far as Vietnam is concerned, we're watching for an announcement from Russia that you were talking about, that they've defeated Ukraine. Once officially announced, they will be lending support to China to go into Taiwan, which will free up Vietnam enough out of communism to power up their dong and silver and gold, etc. Putin will be visiting North Korea and Vietnam in the coming weeks. He is getting Vietnam ready for the China-Taiwan invasion. Russia has banned euro trading in Moscow, and the Chinese yuan is dominating. The petrodollar is now over as of June the 9th with Saudi Arabia. And so it's all coming together at once, Nick. And now for Zimbabwe, the new ZIG gold-backed dollars and the Zim bonds will be restored by Nelson Chamisa upon his return as the people's choice. Emerson Mnangagwa is conceding to Nelson Chamisa as more corruption continues to come out in Zimbabwe. Elections are August 23rd. The Zim bonds will be put in with the ZIG, and it will be number one. It will be one currency altogether, backed by gold. And all notes and bonds will be accepted by their banks. In reference to gold and silver, Bretton Woods Agreement is officially done. BRICS is powering up in gold. Recent Supreme Court ruling in secondary statement here, the state-sponsored banks in the U.S. can disband from the Federal Reserve System and issue their own currency. So not only is the rest of the world pulling away from the petrodollar and the U.S. Federal Reserve, we've got, I think, about 27 states that are putting forth legal documentation so that they can separate and have their own state-backed gold coins and dollars. Let's see, the May 30th, 2024 was the Fed day. This sets the fundamental value of gold at around $25,000 an ounce, and silver at about $417 an ounce. The states are removing taxes from the purchase of gold and silver and can use it as legal tender. Examples being Texas leading the way, Tennessee and Florida. This market crash that is anticipated, if that goes through the way that experts are saying, will be worse than 2008. Which was tied to real estate and mortgages, whereas this crash entails the entire world economy. And now to an update on BRICS nations, which was originally, of course, made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There's so many new countries that are being added almost weekly, and the latest being Turkey, Singapore, and Nicaragua. So we've got 59 total countries coming into BRICS now. Where they are back to Iraq. They're doing something electronically, internationally, and it's being completed within their system. Hopefully that will be done this month. They expect it to be. The rates at the banks, as you mentioned, for Iraq are expected to be at $4 or over, and completed by the end of this month. Exciting news about ATMs in Iraq, and hopefully they will see it this month. They're changing numbers in the budget from $70 to $80 a barrel, and supposed to go in the Gazette. It was supposed to have gone in the Gazette a week ago. We're still waiting to see that. Monday, it was already over $4 on their screens at the banks as an anticipatory figure. Now, last Friday, the ATMs were emptied out on the previous Wednesday, and hundreds of new ATMs, I'm told it could be even thousands, are being put in throughout Iraq and Kurdistan with the new denominations in them. Of course, those new denominations are all the lower denominations, so they're completely worthless without a revaluation. It's being broadcast on their TVs, and New Economy is being brought to Iraq. They're claiming this week, this month for sure. They're also telling them in the mosque. Monday morning, Iraq was saying the new rate to be between 450 and 460. Our alphabet soup boys over here and are claiming between 450, 465. So they're right in line together, being brought to them this month. It was supposed to, we were expecting it to happen during the holiday period, and we're still waiting. But, and I understand that we may be having something to do with why that hadn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. All three technical phases are completed that they were working on. The Treasury has printed money for us here in the U.S. and ready to go. Everything is ready. Systems are connected. Meetings about us were held this week. When I say us, I'm referring to people that hold currency. We will be treated with respect regardless of how much you have, because they don't know if you've got a little bit or a lot. And whatever it is, they would like to have it in their bank. Although understand in the U.S., it's immediately going into U.S. Treasury, actually. If you want to move it out of that on the QFS system and put it in the bank, that's your choice. They don't want you walking out without getting your business. They have been notified that they'll be working extra hours soon at the banks. There's no disagreements in Iraq. All the talks are about the stolen money and their recovery process that they discovered. And we've got New York, Atlanta, and several other major cities all have been loaded with extra cash for us. There's extra security will be available both inside and outside the banks. Unfortunately, even the excited bankers last week who thought it was going to be happening Monday were going, and it was going to be over the weekend, have all been let down. So their balloons are deflated. They still may happen by Sunday, June 30th, when Iraq is having ambassadors from other countries, finance ministers, heads of state to celebrate just Media Day is what they're calling it. That's when they kind of got their freedom. But the anticipation is that they will actually be announcing this during that same time. And there'll be a whole lot more to celebrate than just that. And our banks here have been told that they've had their last meeting before this RV is announced. So that's how close they think we are.
Wow. And how about the Vietnamese dong? What do you think that would go to?
Well, Vietnam's been playing around a lot with it. For the longest, we expected the Forex rate to be around 47 cents. Now, there's multiple rates above that, depending on how much currency you hold. And I go into that in the consultations. But I have seen Vietnam put out articles that they may come out as high as 286. If they do, fantastic, take it and run. Uh, you know? Otherwise, get in touch with me and we'll give you a strategy.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So how close are we to this? Wouldn't you assume that something like this maybe would happen under Trump so he could get the credit for this? Or do you think it would happen like, like Trump's not so remotely involved in this and this other country's contribution to this?
Well, we know that Biden's going to be taken out. There's no question about that. Even his own people are ready for him to go. Um, it's I haven't seen it personally, so I hate to even say it, but it's my understanding that in Iraqi parliament, they saw physical evidence that Trump behind the scenes had already been reinstated. And he did recently sit over our U.S. Senate, which is kind of strange because that's usually the vice president's job. But it seems like there's a lot stirring in that regard. He keeps putting out little comms that are encrypted in his speeches that kind of let people who are in the know that something's big's fixing to happen. They just won't come out and say anything officially.
Very interesting. Well, like I said, it's peanuts when you buy these currencies, millions of them. It's peanuts that when you buy them from dollars, and it's a wealth transfer. And we're waiting for this to happen. These currencies are very heavily suppressed by, the Federal Reserve, the Rothschild family, to keep these countries broke, where they've got so much gold and minerals and sanctions on their currencies. I'm going to leave a link below in the description because a lot of people are wanting to know more about these currencies and where they can find them. But Rod Steele, it's been an absolute honor to have you on my show. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish? And also where people can follow you if you'd like to tell them your username on Twitter, formerly known Twitter, now X?
Yeah, I kind of hang out over there on X at Patriot Rod Steele. It's at PatrioTRodSteel with no E on the end. And if you would have an interest, and I'll be honest, I can help the U.S. people a lot more thoroughly as far as the banking experience than I can those in other countries. I know a little bit about what's going on in Canada and England, but not nearly to the depth that I do here in the U.S., if that helps people with a decision. As far as getting in touch with me at Patriot Rod Steele, to DM me on the account there. Don't use a reply to a tweet. Actually, DM me, which is real simple. There's a little envelope at the top of the thing. Just click on it and it'll let you send me a message and just say interested in a consultation. And basically, I go over all the details of the currencies that you hold, what rates will be available based upon what you hold, and other options that are available for people here in the U.S. as well. Makes millions of dollars of difference, literally. I'm not kidding. And then, of course, we go through the banking experience that you have here in the U.S. and cautions that you need to be aware of here, and preparations to make proper negotiations for better interest rates if you leave money in savings, and possible investment opportunities. It's a lot that we cover in about 30 minutes. And if people have an interest in that, just DM me, say I'm interested in the consultation. I'll send you some information and we'll go from there.
Well, Rod, thank you so much. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Always a pleasure, Nick. Love you. Bye-bye.